The Mark of Gideon is an episode I lean toward liking. I think it has a really strong premise. I think that its actual execution is uneven, both in terms of its script and in terms of the episode itself in the finished form. I don't think it's a poorly directed episode. It puts itself in a position where it doesn't have to rely too heavily on exotic sets, hence the action takes place on a false Enterprise, which is to say, the Enterprise set without any other actors other than Kirk and the female guest star. Where the execution is let down is the performances of the guest cast feel just sort of bland and forgettable. They blend in with the other myriad of one-time characters featured in the history of the original series. Shatner's on good form here, I believe, very good form even, and Nimoy's as good as ever. I feel very, very solid. It's just a shame about it. It's one of those things where you sort of realize, like, oh, holy crap, there's some great ideas here, but the end of the episode lacks kind of a punch, and it's one of those things where you wonder for a moment, like, am I underrating this episode? Is this an underrated classic? And then you realize, like, toward the end, it's like, yeah, this is why this wouldn't be so well considered. Although it is an odd little, could you say, proto-Soylent Green idea. It's kind of, I know that it's going to be one of those storylines that some people have ripped apart in retrospect, especially from, on ethical sort of just like, Drexler for being progressive and whatnot, and like, about being sort of pompously ethical as a fan if you feel the need. And so people would, all up in arms like, how could they possibly think that the only alternative was to unleash a virus upon the people, as opposed to convincing them through logical means to use birth control. There must be another way. It reminds me of the complaints people had about Private Little War, which are probably more apt there since they referred to the concept of warfare itself. But whereas in the case of Mark of Gideon, it can refer to, trying to shift people's long-standing beliefs is, while it's a sensitive topic, it's not something that people necessarily choose to intrinsically respect in times of absolute desperation. So Mark of Gideon overall, I would class as one of the better episodes of season 3. It's worth mentioning that earlier in the development, there was no false Enterprise. That came in later, perhaps as a logistical production novelty. But also, Stanley Adams, one of the writers on this episode, he was apparently anxious about overpopulation and suggested this to Gene Roddenberry, and that they could do an episode about the topic, and Roddenberry assigned Adams to undertake it.